Here we go. Welcome to Double Dribble Bucks. I am Seth. With me, as always, is my good friend Brett. How you doing tonight, Brett?
I'm doing okay. I feel like we're all kind of having this weird like Bucks hangover where we're just like kind of waiting for something to happen, but constantly feeling like these losses are just hanging on our shoulders. So I don't know. It's a tough time right now.
Yeah. Thankfully, they've kind of gone back to their winning ways a little bit. One thing I looked at was we started the season pretty well, 4-1, and in those 5 games, the Bucks were the sixth top-rated offense, the ninth top-rated defense, seventh overall. So top first five, and we were excited. We were like, new Bucks look great. They're fast. They're moving the ball. Okay, then a bunch of games happened, and
Yeah.
it didn't look so good. Okay, now last 5 games, granted against pretty bad teams, 4-1, sixth offense, 10th defense, eighth net. So the first 5 games of the season and the last 5 games that we've seen, the Bucks are a top 10 team, and they're looking pretty good. And they're 10-2 in those 8-2 in those 10 games. But the in between time was not good, and now Giannis missed some of that, but not all of it. And there was enough Giannis playing time that the Bucks looked bad. Where you kind of look at everything and it's just a little bit confusing. It's not as clear cut as, hey, Giannis is on the team. They're top 10. They're like top 5, top 10 team. When he's out, they're terrible. I mean, that's partially true, but it's just not completely true. And I was just trying to, I started kind of looking into it like, what is the deal? Why is that? And I don't really have a great answer, but maybe I'll let you take it. Just hearing that, do you have any response? Do you have any rationale to that?
I have to say I'm surprised, and I think it's because like the wins we've gotten haven't really felt like wins because it's like these are a bunch of crappy teams. These are the teams that you need to be able to kick their ass every once in a while. It's like the the Kings game they ended up winning, but at one point they were up 20, 25 points, and you know that totally went away. But I think of like I can't even remember when it was, but it's recent memory when we were playing the Celtics and we were up like 30 or 20 and they sat everybody for like a long time. They were just like, yeah, we're done. We're not coming back. But it's like the way that the team is playing now, like every team should be like, oh, like we'll always come back. Like it doesn't matter if we're down 100, the Bucks just gonna give up. And it's like that's a crappy mentality to have. And I think that's why it's like it's hard to be. Yes, it's great that we're 4-1 over the last 5 games, but none of them feel super confident. Like, oh, that was a great win and looked really good. It just feels like there's moments of that, but then there's plenty of moments of just like I don't understand what's happening. And I think one of the things that seems to be working the last 5 days, something we've talked about in the past, I think Doc is actually sticking with a lineup. The starting five that he's had, their plus minus was great. I can't remember. I don't know what the number was, but it was like the best
Yeah,
of the roster, right?
I'll quick jump in. The Bucks starting lineup is the third best lineup in the league of all lineups that have played at least 100 possessions. It's plus 40.7 in 102 possessions. So it's very good.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's
amazing. And
with.
I think it's.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's Doc. I think one of the issues that we kind of just we've talked about, but it wasn't a big deal, is he's constantly changing the lineup. Just like he doesn't, it doesn't seem like he's any consistency with these lineups. And then if he does have some consistency with the starting five, he changes it so quickly that those people aren't even playing. It was like one of the last couple of years, you brought up something that like we were doing so well, and then he started making all these changes, and it was like he never went back to that original lineup that had been starting the game so hot. And it's like maybe something is finally clicking where it's like, if you have a really good group, like let's not worry about like getting them rest in the middle of the season. Like let's get some wins and play them and see what happens. But like I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing the same lineups more, and I think that's maybe.
Yeah, for these past 5 games, I mean, I believe they've had that starting lineup the past 5 games, and it's been awesome. I guess it's like it's good. Doc realized it, and he's playing this lineup, and it seems to be the starting lineup that he's hopefully not shuffling around anymore. But it's still just kind of ridiculous that he didn't just go to this right away. This is obviously the best five.
Mhm.
Like so when when KPJ came back, I believe he started Rollins with him one game, I think, but then he benched Rollins for like 2, 3, 4
Yeah,
games,
yeah.
I think we complained about it last pod, so maybe it was like a month ago, but he played Rollins like the thing I always remember is 6 minutes in the first half of one of those games, and it's just like how what's going on here that you're going away from Ryan Rollins. Like this doesn't make any sense at all. He's like your second best player because this was when Giannis was out at that time. It just made no sense. So I mean, I guess it's good that Doc gets to the right place. But why does it take him so long, and why does he try these dumb things that just don't make sense? It's just I do recall him saying that the numbers with Rollins and KPJ on the court at the same time weren't very good at that time, which was, let's say, a month into the season. Yeah, because KPJ was hurt. So it was probably like 5 games, max, like not much time at all. So really small sample size, and he's throwing out analytics, and it's like, maybe you're too into the analytics right now. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I don't think you're enough into them. But if you're going to make a decision to bench Ryan Rollins, who's clearly the second best, third best player, top 3 playing at that time, especially, and only give him like 18 minutes in the game, it's just like you're overthinking this. What are you doing here? Just
You
play
know,
the guy.
the meme of like people use AI all the time that they won't know how to like interact with people without like using AI. That might be Doc with analytics. Like the moment analytics came in, he just doesn't know what to do and like has analytics tell him every single thing to do way too often. And he's just living in it. And it's just like, hey Doc, what'd you think of the game? I don't know. The analytics said this. It's like, okay, well, what'd you think? A former player, you've been playing for a while, like even an actual opinion of like someone that spent like the majority of their life playing basketball. Like, give me something here, man. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just has a weird relation. He's like an older person, not necessarily all old people can't comprehend that, but like he's not the younger coach that I would imagine to be, well into the analytics and being able to kind of talk about it. Doc just seems like he has numbers thrown in front of his face and is like, all right, like whatever.
And at the same time, I'm not sure what he's doing to address some of the poor analytics, like the offensive rebounding and the allowing the offensive rebounding. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing. I guess I would say there was a time where he was playing Sims, kind of a lot. That kind of stopped, which I guess I'm fine with. I don't know if that was helping, but I think that was his attempt at improving the rebounding game. But we're losing that. We're losing the possession game. I mean, and part of that's turnovers. In the past 5 games, KPJ has been much better with not turning it over. So how much of it is the players just need to play? They need to not turn it over. They need to go get a rebound. I feel like Bobby Portis is rebounding better. I should have looked that up. I don't know if the numbers back it up, but I think he's rebounding much better than he did the first month. And so how much of it is that? It's like Bobby just finally getting into season mode because it seems like he just kind of sucks the first month or two. And KPJ just not dribbling into turnovers all the time. Or is it Doc needs a better strategy or whatever? More coaching, more playing.
Well, the first thing that jumps to my mind is like we're watching the game the other day, and we didn't get the offensive rebound and got killed in a quick basket the other way. And it was like, okay, look, you got to do one or the other. Like, if you're not going to be the offensive rebounding team, you got to be back and not get burned by that every time. But you can't be both because it's like, well, I don't even know what you're doing out there. And it's like the KPJ turnovers is something that the Bucks have been dealing with since Doc's been there. I mentioned it before. It's these, weak passes. They're too casual. They're too kind of sloppy with some of the dribbling sometimes. And these guys aren't like that. It's just all of a sudden it just comes out of nowhere where it's like you're dribbling off your foot. Like you're an NBA player. You don't dribble off your foot anymore. You should be way better than that. So, when you have somebody like Bobby that's all of a sudden playing, he's playing awesome. At least, it when you're watching it, he seems to be great. Like you don't have huge problems with anything he's doing. But I always wonder, is it with Bobby taking some time and stuff like that, is it him kind of finally clicking with the coach, or is it a moment where he's like, "Fuck you, I'm going to do it my way"? And it's so difficult to know which one it is. Like, was Bobby trying? Like, was Doc like, "Yeah, you do it your way. If that fails, then you do it my way, and it's working"? Or has Bobby been really trying to make this thing with Doc work, and then finally was just like, "Fuck it, I know how to play. I'm just going to play."
That's actually interesting because it definitely seems to me like BP's playing more like BP, like what we're used to, which includes the bad part of Bobby Portis, which is taking like a 22-foot jump shot, like just inside the arc, with 15 seconds left on the shot clock. Like, why are you taking that shot? What are you doing here?
Right, yeah.
And he's taking kind of just dumb shots like that. It's just a little bit too ball hoggy, a little bit like, hey, we need to get that ball moving. But sometimes he's 8 for 10, and it kind of works out. Like, all right, we'll take a really high percentage of you making all these shots. That's not a bad thing. But other times it's not that way, and then he's kind of mucking up the offense, and it's not as good. And like I said, I think he's been more aggressive on the boards. I mean, he had a pretty amazing offensive rebound and put back the other day over like 3 guys. That was the kinds of things that are happening against us all the time.
Yeah.
He was actually doing. So if to answer your question, I would say I think he's just doing what he's doing. Like, this is how I know how to play basketball. I got, don't mess me up with whatever strategies you're trying to do here because they're not working. Maybe that's part of it. Either way, I'm in for that. I'll take the bad Bobby with the good Bobby as opposed to kind of all mediocre with some bad games,
Yeah.
and lack of rebounding. So,
Well,
yeah,
I do agree. I think Bobby is kind of being Bobby. You said he's playing, like himself. But I think, have you seen the quote that Giannis had about like some of the struggles and how he kind of said it was like a team project in school? Did you hear about this? So he said like
sounds
something like when
familiar.
you're, like when you're on a team and you're having problems, it's like a team project at school where let's say you have 5 people that are working on the project, and you know, you're missing meetings, or this person's been missing a meeting, and or this person's, wasn't at class today, or all these little bumps in the road. So one person starts doing more than they need to because they are not relying on everyone else, because they're like, I'm just going to make the assumption that this is going on, and I'm going to have to do more work because of that. And he's like, that's what happens when these teams start to kind of splinter like this. And I thought that was perfect, because it's like, Bobby is a great example of that. He sometimes is that ball hog, and you do feel like you have that mentality where he feel like he has to do more. But it's like, Bobby is such a great team guy. He's not like an individual guy. You're not going to see a team built around Bobby Portis. No offense about that. I mean, that's just the reality. There's not many players that are going to get a team built around him. But like, you're not the guy that we need to turn to step it up. Like, you just got to continue to do your role and trust the process. And if Giannis is off, he's going to get hot. He is. So just do what you have to do, and keep doing it.
Yeah, I like it. So back to my question, you are saying it's more the players, not the coaching, in terms of
That's what
the
I'm saying at this
Bucks.
point of the season.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, do you think, like, how confident are you? Do you think the Bucks can continue this play? They're 4-1 in the last 5 games. Once we get into, which we're about to get, kind of tougher competition, assuming Giannis stays healthy. You think we're going to continue this, or do you think we're going to have problems? And why is that? Like, if we start doing poor, is that just the players just aren't playing well?
So obviously, I'm always going to be confident and assume that we're going to be, this is the beginning of good things to come. But it feels always going to be that attitude when you have Giannis on your team, because it's like, you can't give up ever. Like, there's always things that can happen. We talked about early on. You just have to make the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you're the number 1 seed or not. Like, just get in there and figure out what you're doing. So I'm going to be optimistic that this is something that's going to continue. Um, I don't know how necessarily it's going to happen when you have it's different competition, except for the fact that sometimes better competition brings out
Yeah,
better play.
that does seem true.
I always remember when I played, pickup basketball growing up. One time I was playing against like two kids, and I was like taking it easy on them, and then they kicked my ass, and I was like, oh, well, that sucked. But then you play someone that you think is going to be good, like you're playing your best. I don't know. You would like to think that at the professional level that's not happening, but maybe that's just something that happens. Like you're playing the Wizards, man. They got 2 wins. Like I'm not gonna try that hard. Like who gives a shit? Maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to nail down what the deal is with this team, and I guess we'll see how they do another month, and the more that we play, the more we'll understand it probably. But it's just been so inconsistent, and the thing that we've been talking about the past month or two is pointing to coaching with some of these lack of fundamentals, and lack of like addressing these fundamental issues. But if they start winning, that all goes away. It's all like, okay, I guess it's all good. But they're going to need to continue it. So we'll see if they can do it. But it is kind of interesting just looking at the league as a whole. I mean, you have Oklahoma City looked unbeatable for like the first 20, 25 games. They're 6-6 in their last 12 games. They lost to San Antonio 3 of those times, but they just lost to, was it the Wizards or Charlotte
Yeah,
maybe
I think Charlotte.
by like 27 points
Yeah.
at home. I mean, that's just like, that doesn't happen. And I haven't been following them enough to know, like, is Shea working through an injury or something like that? But I didn't hear that. It's kind of the talk about that game that they lost the other day. So it is kind of a weird league. Yeah, Cleveland. Everyone thought Cleveland was going to be amazing. They have basically the same team back from last year when they won 60 plus games, wherever they did, and they're a little over 500, I think, around 500 right now. There's talk about them making a trade or firing Kenny Atkinson. I saw, it's probably bullshit reports, just like the Bucks reports, but that kind of talk was out there. So yeah, it's a tough league, and good teams can have struggles. And the Pacers last year were 500, and then they ended the season pretty well and made it to the finals. So the narrative is always like so black and white, right? Like the Bucks suck. They're out of it. There's no chance. And you could say that about various teams. The Pacers had no chance in the playoffs. Every pundit out there, all the podcasts and everybody in the first round of the playoffs are not giving the Indiana Pacers a chance at winning the championship. Okay, they made it to game 7 and lost with their best player getting hurt that game. It's like they could have won the championship. So it's hard to overcome the narrative, and we saw this with the whole Giannis thing. So everyone thought Giannis was going to be traded. Okay, it didn't happen. All right, or maybe it'll still happen, but I mean, the talk is now gone. So it's just like this overpowering narrative that's out there, and people just kind of succumb to it. It's hard not to. I don't even necessarily blame people, but it's the same thing with just how good a team is. How well can they do? Whatever. Do the Bucks have a chance? Do the Nuggets have a chance without Jokic? All this stuff. You can talk about any of it, and it's just, this is why sports are great, because you actually don't know. You have to play to find out. And when you have Giannis, I feel like that's enough to be like, there is a chance, right? If you're the Washington Wizards, you can give up. I'm okay with it. They're not going to win the championship. Maybe, there's a line somewhere where it's just like absolute insanity would have to happen for someone to win the championship. But like, if you have a Giannis, you're halfway there. You're more than halfway there. Then you have other guys around you that are good. You have like AJ Green's one of the top 3-point shooting. You have two young guards who are maybe getting better. It's like it seems like there should be more positivity. But when you're 16-20, how positive can you be, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's Bucks fans are unique, at least on social media, the ones you see, because we talked about this before. The sky is falling. This team sucks. Like, what the hell are we doing? It's like, okay, look, that's not really how you talk about a team you're a fan of. Like, I don't understand that, but like the narrative does get overwhelming. I have people in my office that don't watch basketball at all, but then when they see me, it's like, oh, is Giannis getting traded? It's like that's the only thing you know about the team. Like, come on, it's bullshit. But that's just the thing. It's like most of these guys talking are just providing an opinion that's based on literally nothing. It's no different than a guy at the gas station or getting a cup of coffee. Like they just have a better platform to say it. You need to go back to And I think a lot of these, at least the studios for the games are having former players. They don't get into who's got a chance and they talk about the team today and what's working, what's not working. They don't sit there and make stupid predictions. And when they do, it's on like a post-it note as like a side bet. It's not like a real, like, I'm going to sit here and tell you that, the Bucks have no chance because there's a bunch of nobodies. Nobodies to who? Like, who is it a nobody to? Like, is it, Sally that's never watched basketball? Yeah, no shit, she's not going to know who they are. But is it, anybody that's watching, professional basketball? Yeah, these aren't shitty guys. We're not putting together like Major League where we just have people like walked on here. These are good players, and Giannis is so good that he's always going to give you a chance. Like there's to your point, sports are so amazing. There's nothing that says the Bucks couldn't win every single game the rest of the season and through the finals and never lose again. I don't know if that's ever happened. The likelihood is very unlikely. But if you went on any place that bet, they're not going to give you like infinity odds. They're going to be like, oh, all right, like how about 5,000 to 1? Because they still are like, it's a chance, and they know it could happen.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we get there, how to maybe improve the team. One thought, one kind of maybe a hot take that I wanted to throw out there, kind of see your reaction to it. I'll start by saying Kevin Porter Jr. is like number 3, according to Nathan Marzion. I did not fact check this. KPJ is number 3 in the entire NBA in dribbles per game, behind Brunson and Cunningham. That's a lot of dribbles, especially for a team that supposedly wants to be moving the ball around, and a team who has Giannis on it with really high usage. I guess there was a month without Giannis, or 14 games out of 36. So that's something, but KPJ also missed a month. Anyway, he's got the ball a lot, too much, probably. Like why is there so much dribbling happening? The other stat on the same tweet here was KPJ had 523 dribbles in the other game last night, 2 nights ago. Rollins had 164. So your 2 guards out there, one of them has 4 to 5 times as many dribbles as the other one. Is that how we want to play basketball? Is that how we want the Bucks to be playing? Do we want Ryan Rollins, not involved quite as much? Or do we want him off ball, kind of sitting in the corner as much as he has been? Or do we want him with the ball? Like, would it be better if he had more dribbles? I'm not sure the answer to that. What I am sure of is I don't like that KPJ has that many dribbles and that much usage in this offense. Just, again, the ball's not moving around. So that's one. I don't think that's horrible. That's just kind of one issue that kind of points to maybe the kind of player that KPJ is. And do we want that? Is that the ideal point guard for this team and for Giannis? So kind of coupled with that, in terms of trading to make this team better, I think trading KPJ is what the Bucks really should be looking at. One, it's because I don't think he's going to be an incredible, amazing, player that you're going to just super regret that you traded away. I don't think he's going to be that. I like him. I think he could be an all-star. We might regret it. I don't think he's going to be like Shea Alexander. He's not going to be SGA or something. I don't think. So I'm okay with taking the risk in that regard. Secondly, he is good. I think you can get someone good back. And there's not many guys that you can do that on this team. Who, I'm not sure how much value Bobby Portis has. Kyle Kuzma, I don't think has that value. I don't want to try Ryan Rollins. To me, you can't do that. And I guess I say that because Rollins we have under contract, while KPJ we don't. Like, he could just walk next year. So that's that's definitely an element here. And why I'm saying this is you might lose him for nothing. And so if you can improve your team, because we have so many guards, it's like if we can get that small forward position filled, which we have not really filled since Middleton went away, that really could help the team. Ryan Rollins can come in and be the main guy at point guard, and I think you're okay there. You have plenty of shooting guards and backup guards for defense and whatever else. Like, you have enough guards. So I think you're gaining so much more than you're losing if you can get a quality small forward. So I guess that's what I'd throw out there. I look to trade Kevin Porter Jr. It has to be for a small forward, a good small forward. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would do that. But again, a part of this is you might lose him or have to pay a lot for him. And I'm not entirely sure I want to pay a lot for him. Like I may want to choose between him and Rollins. I'm not sure how much he's going to even cost, but those are kind of my off-season fears, and trading him for value, maybe that's worth doing.
So a couple things. I don't want to fact check you, but we did sign KPJ to a 2-year deal in the summer.
I'll try to look it up. I think it's a player option.
Is it? Well, I saw the player option is for the 26-27. Oh yeah, so I guess that would be next year. Okay. So you're right. So you're right. He could walk next year because of his option. Sorry.
Which I think is assumed at this point because it's like 5 million, I think, right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the
Okay.
assumption.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. The dribbling, I don't know if I'm overly concerned about it. I think, KBJ has a little bit of like that old school point guard in him, and I'd be curious of like how does that compare to like Allen Iverson or John Stockton or some of those point guards back in the day? Because, Stockton was a facilitator. He had all these assists, but Iverson was as well, but also had the ball a lot because that's just the way he played. You don't have Iverson set up for a shot. He's not going for these, low rebounds. He'll, try to set up a play or go to the basket. And I'm seeing that a lot from KPJ. So I don't know that that's necessarily a problem thing. I do agree that if it's going to be we'll address something that like Kelly has talked about. And she'll always say like, it's the end of the game and you have the time for one shot. Why are you giving the ball to Giannis when maybe his field goal percentage is down or, he's not the best at that range compared to some of the other guys again on there? And I'll always come back and say, he's the guy that you're paying $60 million. You're going to give him the ball every single time. You don't want to trust it to a $5 million journeyman or, something like that. Like, I understand why you would want those people to take the shot. I get it. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but, that's what you do when you have Giannis. That's, you give him the ball every time. And I think to your point with this dribbling thing, it seems like a bad stat because every stat on the Bucks should be Giannis leading it. He should have the ball the most. He should have the minutes the most dribbles, the most dunks. Like that's the way the team is set up. That's what you do when you have Giannis. I don't disagree with the KPJ thing. I think Rollins has really shown that he can be the point guard that we need in this new future lineup. And if you go Rollins, AJ Green, and then that's kind of where you got to figure out that small forward spot, like you talked about. All of a sudden, you kind of have a good lineup here. Like you don't need KPJ. It's maybe one of the reasons as well that the roster was kind of built the way it was. You bring in KPJ, you're the point guard that kind of set it from the beginning. We're going to bring in Rollins, who we see a lot of potential, but I don't think anybody expected him to blow up the way he has this year. It's just kind of been a huge difference. But then a lot of the guys we sign, Cole Anthony, basically a point guard over everything else. Who's the other one? Trying to blank.
Gary
But I
Harris.
feel like we got, yeah, maybe Gary Harris, my point guard. I don't know for sure, but yeah, like those all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, here's what we're gonna do. KPJ, we feel can get us through this season, and if he walks because he makes more money, then that's good for us because we got a really good year out of him, and we'll figure out this point guard situation. On the flip side, if Ryan Rollins really steps up the way we need him to, we have some veterans behind him that if he gets hurt, they can kind of like fill in the short term, but we don't have to have something working. There could be something to that. Obviously the downside is the lineup that we talked about has KPJ and Rollins playing in it. So, it is tough to bring up a trade idea when it's like, hey, let's start the show by talking about how amazing this lineup has been, and you're like, break it up immediately because that's the best thing to do. Um, but I mean, you make a good point. I guess I wouldn't argue against it. He's probably got the most value of anybody that's not Green, Rollins, and Giannis.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely thought of it, the combination of him having value and we might lose him. It's definitely the combination of those two things as to why he's the guy that stands out. The number one guy I would want to trade is Kuzma, who I don't even mind on the team, actually. I actually kind of like him as a backup Giannis. If that's what he is, he's good. And, that's not worth 20 million. If you have that guy for 5 million, then that's great. Then I want him. I actually want Kyle Kuzma on the team for 3, 4, 5 million and only play him 15 minutes, that's kind of a good fit for him and for the team. But for as it is now, he plays a bit too much and sometimes is put in positions where he's kind of set up to fail and he gets paid too much. So I would say if we can trade him, that'd be great. I just don't see that happening. Bobby Portis, I'm not against trading him, but you do lose that small, he's kind of like the small ball lineup, so to speak. I mean, it's not really small ball, but Bobby at the 5 is kind of it is a nice lineup that I like seeing, that really is effective at certain times. And do we want to lose that? In addition to just kind of the Bobby, 20 points in 5 minutes that he throws out there every 5 games or whatever it is. So it is kind of difficult looking at this team and just what trade do you make to make this team better? Because I think we all agree we need it to be better. There's definitely a hole at small forward. And it's just I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to figure that out. I guess AJ Green would be the other guy, but you have him under contract at a good contract. So it's I wouldn't want to get rid, and he's perfect player with Giannis. So it's just, I wouldn't do that either, So there's kind of, that's what kind of leads me again. Just that's why KPJ is the guy, which I wouldn't love. And to your point, hey, let's give it a month. When's the deadline? I don't know exactly, but I think it's more than a month away.
Yeah.
So to your point, hey, we're 4-1. This lineup has been great, and it hasn't really played all that much together. Let's see how it goes. Give it 2-3 weeks here. If we get rolling, then it's all right, maybe we have something. Maybe we don't need to make a trade, or maybe we'd still make a trade, but it's more on the margins kind of a deal. As crazy as it is, we're missing Taurean Prince. That's I never would think I would say that. And that kind of this may be just an evidence that this roster is missing something, to say we're missing Taurean Prince, but we don't really have many guys to play the 3. I mean, and AJ Green at the 3 is not where he should be, really. He should be a 2. But they're getting by. I mean, that lineup's been great. So that lineup works, but when they get away from that lineup, which they obviously have to do during a game, that's where it gets rough. That's where the Kings came back down 25 and they came back to within 3. It was largely with some bench guys out there. So yeah, I don't know if you have any comment on that. If not, my question would be do you have any suggestions on how to treat the rotations or the bench differently? Because that does seem to be a big weakness for the Bucks.
So, I mean, the first thing I would address, I think the only 2 players that make sense for a trade, I agree, are KPJ. Maybe Gary Trent is the other one, because both of them would be the teams that need a rental at a point guard or a shooting guard, knowing that they can walk from both of those guys if they wanted to, or they could sign them. Those are going to be the trade candidates. I mean, I don't know.
That's actually perfect. Why didn't I think of that? Trading Gary Trent Jr. is actually probably the number 1 guy you should be looking to trade, because you don't need it. We have so many guards.
Yeah. And you've seen, he's had big games, so people know that it's out there.
Yeah. I think a team who is 1 piece away might actually pay for him. Right. I think you could maybe get value because he's the kind of player that someone really might be we need that guy. We need shooting. The Pistons, actually, are the team that should try to get him. I don't know if we want to trade it to the Pistons, but anyway, that's a great point.
Yeah. The Bobby Portis, you're not going to trade him. His value just has gotten lower and lower. He's, over 30. He's a great player, but he's not the guy that you maybe you throw in a trade. The other thing I just warn people about is like right now we have Giannis, Turner, Sims, and Kuzma are like your big four guys with height that are playing like your fours and your fives. I don't think
Yep,
I'm
and
missing
Bobby.
anybody.
And Bobby.
Didn't I say that? Bobby, Giannis.
Oh, okay. You probably started with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just the four guys. But it's like, all these trades where you see like, oh, the Bucks are going to trade Bobby and Kuzma. It's like, hold on. So you think we're going to
Yeah,
rely
I know.
on like, getting rid of, two of our five big guys? Like that's dumb. Like why would we do that? And then we're just going to
And
get
then
it.
the trade is like for Levine or someone. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
that doesn't,
exactly.
how's that going to work?
How does that make any sense? Um, yeah, I would just I think, KPJ, Trent, those are the guys to look out for. I don't really think that I don't see anything else happening. Maybe you get like these throw-ins with some Cole Anthony type, end of bench guy, maybe, but I think those are the names you'd look at. But we'll just have to see who thinks they got the team this year to rent somebody. But as far as like mixing up the lineup, I just want Doc to try to play longer minutes with this group and really kind of push them through. We've talked about before. There's players that can start a game great and end it terribly. There's other ones that get better as the game goes on. Like you got to mess with that to see it at different points. Like keep trying weird shit. Like put Sims out there with a bunch of shooters to see what happens. Like maybe some people don't want to go at a big that's so athletic and he can play differently than a back to the basket big. Try that. See how that works. Try something where maybe you have Kuzma, Bobby, and Sims all at the same time. Like then you all of a sudden you got a lot of height, and what are you going to do with that? Like I think those are the roster moves I want to see, but I want to see 5 minutes at a time. I think that's the big problem we've talked about with Doc before. He makes a change, and then it feels like he doesn't know when to pull back. He just kind of rides him out, and it's like, all right, you should have made a lineup change 10 minutes ago, dude. You know, look at the Kings game. At what point do you want this like lead to go to nothing before you're going to make a damn change? Like, I don't get it. So, yeah, that'd be my recommendation for the.
Yeah, that's good. Now, the one thing I would think of, which he played Giannis at the 5 the other day, and I commented like, I don't know if we've seen this that much. So I'm gonna try to look that up real quick while I ask this other question. I thought I had like no notes, but turns out I have a couple. So here's my other one of my other notes that you're gonna love. Is Ben Simmons worth a shot? Is it worth a shot to sign? Apparently he's been working out. He's ready. He wants to come back. He's what, 6'10", I believe, height.
Yep.
Very good defender. Not a good shooter at all.
No.
But very good defender, tall. I don't know his rebounding numbers, but I'm guessing he's a good rebounder. He kind of fills some of the holes that maybe the Bucks would have. Maybe he would be able to give 5-10 minutes. That would be really helpful in certain lineups. Maybe in for Giannis, probably not with Giannis with the shooting problems. I don't know. I saw something that he was like trying to make a team, and I was like, I don't know. I don't hate trying it.
So here's why I do hate it. And I'll just tell you.
I knew you would.
Number one, it's going to start with the fact that there's a video that's probably AI, but it shows him fishing, which is like a sport that he's picked up. He's really gotten to fishing.
Yes,
and he's showing the fish, and he goes to throw it in, and he misses the fucking ocean. He missed the ocean throwing a fish into the water. I'm pretty sure that was real. And I understand your point. We're not bringing him in to shoot, and yeah, but you cannot be the team that signed the guy that can't hit the damn ocean from a boat, which is like the oldest dumb joke in the world. And it's like that just literally happened to a guy that's notorious for sucking at shooting the ball. So I'm going to say no. I don't like that at all. But I mean, I get your point. I see it. It's I'm always open to take a risk on some guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Also pace. That's the other thing he'd help. The thing that we
it's
supposedly
true.
were improving and did not.
I think the biggest problem is if this was the Green Bay Packers, where they have a culture that you come into the culture and that works. I feel like the Bucks have been trying to get that. We don't quite have that. It's the when the Packers got Micah Parsons and then we just got Diggs. Diggs and Parsons knew each other, and apparently Parsons reached out and said, "The culture here is amazing. You're gonna love it. You work hard, and everybody's all on the same page." It's like awesome. Yeah, like I love to hear that. But with the Bucks, it's like I feel like there's some of that. When Kuzma came and Bobby was like, "Yeah, you don't need to wear fancy outfits here. Like you ball and you go home. Like that's all it is." But we haven't built that next step of just like this is the Bucks culture and it's just a machine and you come in here and you have to fit this and it makes sense like the Packers. And to be honest, I don't know if there's a lot of basketball teams that have ever truly done that. Maybe the Celtics in the '60s,
I mean, the Spurs, the
Spurs. Yeah,
Heat,
that'd
I
be a good
guess, are
one.
recent examples that seem to have, heat culture is a thing.
Well,
How much
yeah,
of a thing is it? I guess is debatable, but those two teams stand out. OK's current OKC kind of seems like maybe it has that kind of deal.
yeah. But I think that's the thing. It's like we just don't see that from the Bucks to make like OKC signing Simmons. It's like okay, you're the type of organization that probably can bring him in and have him fall in line because it's the way things are working. I just don't know that the Bucks
Yeah, yeah, totally fair.
have.
Totally fair. It probably wouldn't work because he doesn't shoot the ball. That's probably why he's not on a team at all.
Yeah. All the other thing is too is if we can't even play Ajax,
Yeah,
who
exactly.
is a great defender, but apparently his offense is enough to snuff. Like you're gonna then. I mean, Ajax. If I was Ajax, can you imagine the look on his face if they brought in Ben Simmons? He'd be like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell, man? This is bullshit."
Yeah, and you know what? Ben Simmons at the three is not a thing. Like, so it's really not actually filling a hole. It's just another 4/5. So it probably doesn't help. I'm sure it's not going to happen. And yeah, with Ajax not getting playing time, it's because he really is a guard. So like, do you want to put Ajax in at the three? I mean, like, yeah, let's try it. I definitely want that over some other guys, but that's not ideal. And when we've seen him really succeed on defense, we're thinking of him locking down SGA in the NBA Cup, or name a guard where he's going 94 feet, guarding him the whole time on ball. That's a guard thing. That's not guarding a wing. So as much as I like Ajax, that's why he's not playing. We have too many guards. Again, that's why Gary Trent Jr. You called it. Second to that KPJ, but trading a guard makes so much more sense. And those are really the two guys who you might get something for that you're willing to trade. Then maybe Ajax can get some playing time. Do it just for Ajax, really.
Just do it for Ajax. Come on.
Okay, so I did look up Giannis at the five. They have only played 18 possessions this season with Giannis at the five. So not much at all. It's a negative 11.1. Obviously a very small sample size, so it doesn't really mean much. I'd like to see it more. A lot of these, actually like almost half of these have Cole Anthony. So they almost all have Kuzma. Every 16 of the 18 have Kuzma, which I'm fine. I mean, that kind of makes some sense. But actually, now that I think about it, I mean, ideally, I think it's no Kuzma because the shooting. So you want to spread it out. You want Giannis at the five, and you want four guys who can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you I'd say if Giannis is at the five, that's what you're thinking. I do want to see some Kuzma Giannis lineups, and that's kind of part of the reason we got Kuzma, and that's more of like, hey, super high pace kind of basketball. Like, we haven't really seen that either. To your point, where you're saying let's try some new things. Let's throw stuff out there. I think these are obvious, like Giannis at the five and Kuzma at the five, or whoever you want to call at the five. But those types of lineups aren't really happening. They're things that Bucks fans talked about a ton with the Kuzma trade. We've talked about Giannis at the five forever, and it just isn't happening. And when you're 16 and 20, like, why is this not happening? Why are we not trying this? Okay, Giannis was out for a month. I guess you get a little bit of slack, but I don't know. It just seems like, especially with the shooters, if you want to play Green and Gary Trent Jr. at the same time, which he keeps doing, which I don't love, but if you want to do that, that makes a little bit more sense to me if it's a Giannis at 5 lineup. Because, yeah. Anyway, that's the answer to that. They haven't really done it much. So I should make a note. 18 on January 6th. I wonder where we're at a month from now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know. Docket's got to try some stuff. One thing I was going to ask you a question about, I did have a note I found as well. So we've always talked about, the Giannis trades that are just kind of like always going out there, and it's just this nonstop bullshit. Well, I realized like kind of what's going on. If you think about like Kobe Bryant, who played his entire career with the Lakers, they had good seasons, they had great seasons, and they had bad seasons. I don't really recall a narrative of Kobe wanting out or the media telling Kobe they want out. Then you go over to like Tim Duncan and David Robinson, spent their entire careers with the Spurs. Again, good years, great years, and bad years. Neither one of those guys ever made a big stink about leaving. Patrick Ewing was in New York. I mean, at the very, very end. I'm not going to count that. Very, very end. Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, all these guys that like, just count those last maybe like year where they're just kind of riding the bench. They stuck with their team and they played it out, and that's what they did. Then you fast forward to you got LeBron, who has messed everything up because he's constantly thinking that people want a big production about where somebody's going and they want to change teams. And it's like nobody really cares. Like we are sports junkies, so we wanted to watch the decision to find out where you're going. But like I kind of was annoyed with all the theatrics. It was like, just tell me where you're going and move on with it. But then the other person is Kareem. Kareem plays for the Bucks, and he says that he wants to leave because we're not cultural enough, or there was not enough of a Muslim community because he just changed, or things that Milwaukee couldn't fix, right? It wasn't a thing with the organization. If I recall, it was all about the city and that it doesn't fit my lifestyle and who I want to be and blah, blah, blah. So I want to go to these types of places. Bucks made the trade happen, and that's what happened. So you take Kareem and LeBron, and that is driving this constant narrative. It's, well, Kareem wanted out of Milwaukee. And if we're going to say Giannis and Kareem are in the same conversation, well, that should be the same thing. Then you fast forward to LeBron, who's kind of made a mockery, him and Durant, like, it's kind of just laughable. Like when you're going to the Hall of Fame, what jersey are you putting on? I don't even know at this point. But you discount all the other guys that played on teams and wrote it out and was just like, well, shit, Patrick Ewing, that's New York. I get it. Totally different animal, but it's like he was loved from day one. They never got over the hump, but he stuck with it. And like, why couldn't Giannis do the same thing? And maybe we'll have Giannis, on the bench of the Bulls one year, and it's going to look weird, and he's not going to play a lot. Well, that might happen, but like, why do we have to start trading all these guys in the middle of it? I just found that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the thing I would add to it is, I think the response a lot of times is people would say, well, the league has changed, with it's a players' league and the rules have changed and the players have more power, I guess would maybe be the main thing. But I think what's left out when some people might respond with that, where they just say, hey, it's a different era, is that when we've seen these guys in the past 10, 15 years change teams, as far as I can remember, it's always been the player forcing the issue, not the media or anybody else, really, even the team. I think every time it's the player. The player wants out. Sometimes it's a bad team. Sometimes it's a good team. And there's just, it's a salary issue. That was, Jimmy Butler both times. It was a good team that he was leaving and forced his way off in a pretty ridiculous way. And Anthony Davis, did he wanted to leave? He did it, I'd say, more respectfully, but it was very
Hmm.
clear he wanted to be traded. Obviously, LeBron James has been the one to kind of change teams each time. Anyway, all the players, Kevin Durant, it's always him wanting to leave. Every player I can think of, like, they're the ones choosing to leave. They're making it happen. It's not like they're pressured into it or whatever. Like, they don't want to be there, whether it's they don't like the coach, they don't like the players, they don't like the teams, they're not getting paid, they want to win. Name whatever reason, it's always the player. So that is what's, I think, more frustrating. And what's interesting is, like, we don't know what the truth is. So this new
Hmm.
narrative this year, this narrative, because we've had this narrative of Giannis leaving multiple times, but I think this was the first year where there was actually reporting slash pseudo reporting of Giannis saying he wants to leave. You know, I don't think we got that report specifically, but we got reporting that kind of alluded to that, or he'd play for the Knicks if you traded him to the Knicks. Like, he'd be cool with that. That kind of those kinds of reports where it's a little bit like, okay, Giannis maybe wants to leave. That's kind of underlying it all. But it wasn't clear, and as more came out, it kind of became a little bit less clear, a little bit more like, I don't, it doesn't seem like he wants out per se. It seems like he wants to win. If the Bucks suck, he'll probably want to leave. I mean, I guess that's clear. And so that's kind of that we're 16-20. We're kind of leading to a point where Giannis might be like, all right, it's time. That makes sense, but they're jumping the gun. They're like way ahead of it. They're like, over this past summer, they're saying Giannis wants to leave. And it's like, well, no, like, he never said that. Doesn't seem like that's true. So but so why do they want it to happen? I don't know. But point is, Giannis hasn't said that. He hasn't made it happen as far as we know. It doesn't seem like he's made it happen. And all these other times, it's the player forcing the issue. They're the ones who want to get traded. As soon as Giannis wants to get traded, it'll probably happen. The Bucks will
Hmm.
probably work with him. He's been amazing for us. I don't think they want to keep him in a bad spot. Obviously, it needs to work out for the Bucks, but I don't think it would be some horrible situation. And considering how adamant the Bucks have been about not trading him, it kind of seems like Giannis has not been saying he wants to be traded.
Yeah, I mean, the frustrating thing is, Giannis doesn't say what we want him to say. But, the more you kind of think about it, it's like, how often do you have people in your life that say what you want them to say? Like, it doesn't happen that way. Like, that's what's, unique. It's like, oh, I wish, I would come home and my kids would say I love you, and instead I walk in and they, hit me with a toy or something like that. It's like, all right, well, I would have hoping this is how I came back, but it doesn't mean that they like want to murder me. It's just, that wasn't the way I thought it was going to be. So the point being, you want Giannis to be able to say, look, I'm very loyal to Milwaukee. This organization has been great to me. I love playing here. I have no plans on leaving. End of story. He hasn't said that, but that might just be his personality. The thing that really is like so weird for me and why I've never really bought into these trade talks is, why is now the year that he wants it? Think about it. It's like we're 5 years after they won. So you're 5 years more in, like, he was in his prime when we won. And I'm going to say that because he won his MVPs, we won the championship. He's now older. He's still amazing. I'm not taking that away at all. But like every year, his value has got to be less because people are like, wait a minute, he is this freak athlete. How long do freak athletes play? Sometimes they can play forever, and sometimes they can't. You go to the NFL, and great freak athletes are retiring at 30 when they could play another 5 to 10 years. That's just the thing. It's like at this point, it just doesn't make sense to me why Giannis would say he wants out. He knows the organization has been doing things to try to make a roster happen. If to me, if there was really going to be smoke behind this fire, Giannis would have left this year. And I say that because it's like we have the championship. We eventually fire Bud. We trade Chris. We bring in Dame. These are all these things we're trying to stay competitive and be back there. Well, now Dame's gone. You got rid of the coaches that you've liked. This would have been the time for him to be like, I'm just not really to see where that's going to go. I think we tried a lot of stuff. It didn't work, but I'm going to go somewhere else and see what happens. That would have made sense. Like, that would have made everyone would have been behind it. But you don't come into this year and not be committed to this team, in my opinion, because the team is built around you. You know what's coming out here, and that's it.
Yeah, especially 15 games in. You know, like that's when this all really erupted. It's like the season just started. Like, yes, the Bucks are struggling, or maybe it was 20 games in, whatever it was. It couldn't have been that much more. We played 36 games so far. This was like a month ago, at least. So like, why? Yeah, he's gonna. Oh, I'm just gonna. I was cool. I was good entering the season, but now I'm gonna demand a trade. You know, it's so not fitting to his personality. Even if he wants a trade, he's probably waiting until summer. Like, it's just doesn't really. It just doesn't totally fit. You know, anything could happen. Like, I guess we'll see, but it doesn't fit. I am nervous if we have a really bad season. I am nervous that he's like, hey, you know, it's a good time to trade me, blah blah blah. So, and then Shams will say, like, hey, I told you, this is what I tell you the whole time. I was right. I was telling you the truth. Like, okay. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I want him to stay in Milwaukee forever, of course, but mostly because he's incredible and I want him on my team. But there is a part of me that wants him to stay just to spite all the people who tried to make this happen for him.
100%. 100%. I think that's going to be the greatest moment. I mean, when he does his Hall of Fame speech, I just want him to kind of hit on it because, you know, he's got the personality, he's got the humor that it wouldn't put it past me to have it be, you know, a full hour where half of it is really heartfelt about family and stuff like that. And then, you know, a good 5-10 minutes or maybe even a one-off liner of being like, you know, now's my time to demand my trade out of Milwaukee or something like that. You know, I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be great. All right. Last thing I wanted to hit on. I guess I was just thinking about Chris Middleton and how great he was. And we have a huge hole at small forward where Chris Middleton was. And I was like, what happened like before? You know, Chris Middleton was hurt for 49 games, one of those seasons that the Bucks were awesome. He was hurt the season that Doc came in. But when I looked at it, he actually played most games with Adrian Griffin. Most of the games he missed that season were when Doc was coaching. And so, like, there's obviously a correlation of, okay, Coach Bud, every season was great, you know, and then we fired him, you know, then we've struggled since then. That's kind of the number one easy correlation to make. Middleton kind of parallels that somewhat. So, I guess I just wanted to point out and maybe just kind of hear your reaction to it, or if you have any ideas here, but Middleton did miss 49 games in that 22-23 season. So the Buds last season, which the Bucks were really good. I think they were 4th net rating that year. Their best net rating, I believe. Because I looked this up real quick. They were 7th net rating the year they won the championship. 8th net rating the following year, where they had an awesome record but lost to the Celtics because Middleton was hurt. Okay, then the next year they were 4th net rating. That last year that Bud was coach, it's like very, very good. Yeah. Anyhow, Middleton missed 49 games. The main replacement player was Pat Connaughton. You know, this is just 2.5, 3 years ago. Pat Connaughton was starting half the season at small forward. And the Bucks were, I should have written their record down, but they were very good that season. So what happened? Like, and then the next season, Pat Connaughton was not the main replacement player. It was Jay Crowder. So when you had Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers, Jay Crowder was the first option to replace Chris Middleton, not Pat Connaughton, which is kind of like, that's interesting, especially because Jay Crowder kind of started to suck that year. We were kind of excited about him, but like he was kind of bad. Okay, then since then we've had, you know, Taurean Prince, basically. And this year we haven't really had one. I guess it's AJ Green, Gary Trent Jr., I guess whoever you want to call playing the 3. It's kind of in the good starting lineup, it's AJ Green. I would say it's not probably not Ryan Rollins. One of those two. So it's just, we haven't had really a clear fit since then. There's definitely not like, oh, this is the guy. But on top of that, Pat Connaughton was a totally fine replacement just 3 years ago. So what's the deal? Was Pat Connaughton awesome and then just like got a lot worse in that next year? Or is it the system? Is it coaching completely? It's obviously probably a little bit of both here and there, but like, what's the main factor here?
I'm going to say it's coaching. And the reason I'm going to say that is, I think we talked about this before. When Pat was traded to Charlotte, Charles Lee is the coach there, I believe, who used to be on the Bucks. So he has known Pat. Am I right? Um, well, he said, don't get too comfortable. You're probably not even going to play on this team or something along those lines. Then he started watching Pat in practice and was like, oh man, this guy's good. So that bothered me for so many reasons because it's like you used to coach him. You should know he's good. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me why you'd say that. It's so dumb. But the other thing is like Pat Connaughton isn't like some make-a-wish kid that like we put on the court from Milwaukee to like, come on, he's a local. What are you talking about? The guy was like a two-sport varsity athlete at Notre Dame and could have played anywhere doing a bunch of like the guy's an amazing ball player. But the perception is who is this guy? I don't understand what game he's got because there are certain guys that, it's the thing that was happening in the NBA all the time. You see all these draft picks that were coming in and they were taking all these projects because they fit the next superstar. Tall, lean, fast. That's what they're doing. But, you look at Malcolm Brogdon, rookie of the year going in the second round, wasn't a flashy guy, but got things done, played a certain way. That's Pat Connaughton. But these guys come in as coaches and they're just like, I don't know how to coach that, which is so annoying because it's like a good coach should make that work and you should understand how this works. But like Jay Crowder was well past his time, prime. It didn't seem to work. He's still stuck with it. Taurean Prince is the same thing. Like, you're really telling me Taurean Prince is that much better than some of these other options? Like, he's got his moments. He's not complete dog shit. I mean, we've talked about it. He's a professional basketball player. But when they look at guys like PC and just like act like we did him a favor being on the team, I think that's the thing that bothers me. And I think that's why I'm going to say it's coaching because he plays a Charlotte. He plays a decent amount in Charlotte. He's not like completely washed up that he's on the bench. You look at Chris Middleton. He plays a lot for Washington, So it's like, I don't know. I mean, yes, we complain that the team was looking old and slow and we needed something to that, and we did. But it doesn't mean those guys couldn't still do something. And I feel like, Adrian Griffin and Doc just didn't know what the hell to do. So that's what I'm saying, coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it's somewhat coaching. I would say for the most of it's coaching. But yeah, I think the thing we're missing now and what the kind of things that PC did for and does for his team is like the little things, the hustle plays, the taking a charge, getting the rebound, knowing the system, being a good team defensive player. The Pat's problem as he got older was he couldn't keep guys in front of him. And I think that's why he didn't get playing time and some Bucks fans hated him. Sometimes it was kind of obvious on the court. People would just blow by him. And then he did the jump past thing that everyone kind of made fun of. Understandable. It made sense that he's not starting and he doesn't play 30 minutes a game, but he did offer something. He was, in a sense, an ideal role player. And that's maybe what's missing on this Bucks team. Who's a role player? Who knows their role and just does it and is not trying to get more minutes, is not thinking about what can I do to be a starter on this team, but just like, I know what I'm good at. I'm going to do what I do for this team. I'm going to be real knowledgeable about our team defense, about our systems, what the plays are, all this kind of stuff. I can come in at a moment's notice and help this team. I'm not sure who's like that, I mean, that's obvious. I'm describing basically a veteran mindset here. So maybe you wouldn't expect that from some young guys. even like an Ajax, maybe you wouldn't expect that, but Ajax is giving some of the fundamental type things that the Bucks have been terrible at, offensive rebounding being one of them. So yeah, so I was surprised to see that. I mean, I think Pat Connaughton was obviously very good. I mean, he was outstanding when we won the championship. So to say he was still good the next 2 years is not, okay, yeah, it's not even surprising to say that. But, he replaced Middleton for half the season and it didn't really affect us. That is kind of interesting. Like you'd think we would have taken a step back. Middleton missing 49 games and we didn't really. So that's you have to say like the system was just, running so well at that point. Bud just had it. He had a good culture. Everyone knew what they were doing. And maybe that's why it ends up being really coaching in the end. It was like he's not getting the players to have that attitude, to understand like this is how you play on a winning team. It seems like, it definitely appears that Doc doesn't have that. He has not built that culture. And so whether it's, whose fault it is, I guess I'm saying it's the coach's fault, even though it might appear like it's the player's fault. It's really maybe what I'm saying. But yeah, at the same time, players have to play. They're professionals. This is their job. So I'm not saying it's 100% Doc's fault, but it's something's missing there, and something was obviously missing with Griffin because the players revolted against him. So that's what we lost with Bud. That sucks. If we could go back in time, I'd say, all right, let's just give it a shot with Bud and we'll complain every playoffs. But, but I think we're stuck with Doc at this point. They would have fired him. I don't, it's hard to see him firing him this season at this point. They've had 3 like crystal clear opportunities to fire him and it hasn't happened. And we're 16-20. It's like, I don't know. I think they just don't want to pay him. I think the owners have said, we're not firing him. We're not going to pay another coach. Maybe this offseason we'll see that happen. But I think it is what it is, and I should stop complaining, and I should just like be optimistic about Doc for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're right. I don't see a change happening. I think, they don't want to pay him. But yeah, I think you're right. It's there's always that hope if you play some shitty team and get blown out by 40, that'll get somebody fired every once in a while. But you're right. It's kind of like if this is what we're doing and losing close games and whatever, like you ride out the year, you hope Giannis doesn't get pissed off, you hope that a new coach comes in, and you hope that this Jimmy Haslam curse that everyone's concerned about doesn't blow up into more than we think it is. So yeah, you just gotta hold on and hope for the best. There's really no point in getting worked up on some of these things. We just gotta have hope and see if something can turn around here.
Hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things.
Yes.
Okay, well, we need questions for next time. We thought we were going to be stuck. Here we are over an hour. This always happens. So maybe we don't need your questions, but we would like them.
We don't need you. But like,
so yeah, subscribe and rate us on Apple, Spotify. Do you listen to your podcast anywhere else? Well, I don't know. Where do you listen to your podcast?
I listen to Pocket Cast, and I'll always remember when you and Chris told me to use it, and I was like, well, why is it better than the, native podcast app on iPhone? And you both are like, it just is. And I kept saying, but why? You're like, we can't tell you. It just is. And then I used it, and it was like, holy shit, it just is. Like, I get it. Like, it's hard to describe, but that's what you do.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm sure there's somebody that's using some like weird, like, zippity doodah for their podcast, and it's like, what are you talking about?
I don't know what I was saying because I use Pocket Cast, obviously, because I told you to use Pocket Cast. So obviously, there's more than Apple and Spotify. Yeah. Subscribe and rate us. I guess people do that still. Email us at doubledribblebucks@gmail.com. If you have our phone number, text us. Or also follow us on Twitter at PodDDB. Until next time, go Bucks.